We've had a request from the President Pro Tem to be present during the testimony of Mr. Kenneth Loftin, Deputy Secretary of Youth Service. Mr. Loftin, if you would come forward. Members, as the Pro Tem of the State Senate, she's an ex officio member of each and every committee, and so I'm going to recognize her as a member of the committee as the rules provide. Mr. Loftin, if you be sworn in and then be seated. Good morning, Mr. Loftin. Welcome to the committee. You may start with an opening statement.
Good morning, Senator, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. My name is Kenneth Loftin, currently the Deputy Secretary for the Office of Juvenile Justice. I've been in the field for quite a few years. I graduated from East Texas Baptist College in 1982, went to work for a special needs facility shortly thereafter for adults, and then went to work for the state under the Office of DCFS for child abuse investigator and family service worker. Then after that, I went to work for Ware Youth Center and building Ware Youth Center and helping it get on the ground. And at Ware Youth Center, it comprised of a detention center, and then that was in 1988. Then in 1998, we opened a group home. We wanted to provide a continuum of care for the kids that we house. So we opened a group home, and then in 2009, we opened a intensive residential program for the girls that were in custody of the state of Louisiana, and did that until I believe it was 23. And the contract was not renewed because of funding with OJJ. And so that brings me to where I'm at. I've worked heavily with Mr. Mark Stewart, used to be the director of OJJ in Missouri, and invented the Missouri model. And we brought that on board in 2010. He worked with us. His crew worked with us every week. Well, 3 weeks out of the 4 every month for about 3 years, helping develop that program. And when I retired in 2015, I came back in 2021 to help with the facility, and I brought Missouri back in there, brought Mr. Stewart's crew back, and we did that until I again retired in 23, October 23. And so that brings us to where we're at.
All right. Thank you for your opening statement, Mr. Loftin. I see that Senator Alan Seabaugh is your senator. Have you spoken with him?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay, good. Is there anything that you may have omitted on your questionnaire that you would like to share with the committee, either in public or private?
No, sir.
All right, tell us a little bit, before we start taking questions, tell us a little bit about your duties and responsibilities as Deputy Secretary of Youth Services.
Youth Services is responsible for housing all the kids that are placed in state's custody throughout the whole state, and we do that in secure care. We also monitor non-secure programs and are responsible for those kids in the non-secure programs. We have over probation and parole for juvenile probation, and then we also are responsible for developing and helping local government invent programs and monitor programs that are diversion programs to keep kids out of our facility. And one thing I did forget to mention in my opening statement was that I've been before y'all in 2016 when I served with Governor Edwards on the Pardon and Parole Board, and was confirmed eventually by the Senate.
All right. There's a lot of things that happened between 2014 and present. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, seems to be.
Yeah. Let me thank you for coming. We're going to start with question by the Pro Tem Senator Barrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Dean of the Senate. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, ma'am.
And we appreciate your service over the years. I guess. But let me just kind of start with a couple of things. And you kind of went through your history, which I was kind of trying to find in terms of the things that you've done in the past. So it seems like you have really pretty much always been in the justice system, juvenile system. I've always kind of done work along those lines.
Pretty much, I started in the adult when I did the special needs program that was for adults, and then when I went.
Where was that?
That was at Evergreen in Mendon, Louisiana.
Okay.
And then when I went to work for the state in DCFS, I was an adult abuse investigator, and actually carried one of the few cases that ever went to court for that.
Okay.
And then I switched over to juvenile, which is really my passion.
So tell me a little bit about that. You said that's your passion. What are your thoughts about young individuals who make mistakes and find themselves in those facilities?
Throughout my career, I've always tried to provide kids the opportunity for growth and a pathway out of their environment or their predicament they're in. That's the reason why I went with the Missouri model. I liked it. It was a therapeutic intervention model that helped kids focus on not so much what the crime was, but what got them at the place they're in. In other words, what actions did they commit to get to where they're at, or what actions happened to get them where they're at, not necessarily the crime. And so as they work through that model, they're able to see that their behavior or their family or whatever was the cause of that. And the group home did the same thing. It provided an opportunity to at some point, get out and be a productive citizen.
So you referenced the Missouri model, which we did not fully implement. You were able to implement various aspects of that program?
We implemented every bit of it.
You did at
yes,
where?
Ma'am. That's the reason why I wanted Mark Stewart's group to come in. We didn't rename it or anything. Mm-hmm. We called it the Missouri model. And we had his folks, what they would do, they would come and we shut down for 3 weeks. We got staff, we moved staff around, we shut the girls program down for 3 weeks. And we did training for those 3 weeks with staff. And then after that, they would go in the cottages. We had 3 cottages for the girls, and they would go into the cottage and work the entire time with our staff, teaching them hands-on how to deal with the kids. It was all about, it wasn't about the discipline. It was about helping them to understand where they're at and what causes effects and causes.
So you believe that young people can be rehabilitated?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that when they're young, they make not sound decisions?
I totally agree with you.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of cut to the chase because I know that you know that there are several articles about what happened at where there were many young ladies there, and they were accusations of sexual assault that went on for years. And at the time, you were actually the warden there.
Yes, ma'am, and I don't understand that. I understand that the article was written. I didn't even read it. I read over it. When I left in 2015, Ware Youth Center was very well respected in the state. Was a leading facility. There was multiple opportunities for kids to make complaints and such, and we never heard those. Matter of fact, the IG's office came out with a letter when I was appointed or named by Governor Landry that I have no problems, and I have a copy of that letter. I'll be glad to give you and the other senators. And then the report even says that everything was fine. Where's a safe and secure facility? I think the article came out as a result of the suicides, which I was not there at that time.
So, okay. Let me kind of back up a little bit, because first you said you didn't read the articles, and then you said that the articles came out and said that there was no findings.
Yes, ma'am, by the IG's office.
By the IG's office, but there were many accounts by several different newspapers that stated and had reports from individuals who were afraid because of retaliation to come forward to state what had happened while they were there. So there were workers, and then there were individuals who were actually incarcerated?
The IG's report interviewed multiple people, multiple kids, multiple staff members, ex-staff members, and they found no evidence of that. So I don't know.
So,
And let me just explain the process. State licensure reviewed where use center regularly, like they did every facility in the state of Louisiana. Matter of fact, they were there quarterly, and sometimes they were there monthly for a while. Plus, you had juvenile probation officers there weekly, if not daily. I had multiple staff. They had opportunities to talk to staff. They had opportunities to talk to their transport officers, because most of the time they were in the car with the transport officer or not a judge, but a law enforcement officer for hours as they traveled. And so they had multiple opportunities to make complaints. And we always investigated the complaint and referred those to DCFS for investigation once we received that complaint.
okay, it's interesting that you would say that, because I have a quote here, and I'm going to see if you know this gentleman. One former state juvenile justice official, Glenn Holt, told the New York Times Loftin had little respect for state oversight of Ware when he was running the center, describing state inspectors as a waste of time. This news investigation also revealed that Ware did not always report sexual abuse allegations made against staff or at the facility to the state as required. Do you know him?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And the state of Louisiana knows him, but that's all I'm going to say about Mr. Holt. I mean, I'll be glad to talk to you privately about it, but I don't feel like I need to say anything public about Mr. Holt.
So let me ask you this. So are you saying that this is not true, that
100% say that is not true.
okay, because we can only go by the information that we have been given, but certainly as the former chair of the Select Committee on Women and Children, my duty is definitely to make sure that the well-being of especially females are always guarded and taken care of. And so, I'm sure that you're very aware of the issues that we have with OJJ. They have been chronic. And so for me, having these allegations are very strong, but in light of where we are in the state as it relates to juveniles and having them have an opportunity, because oftentimes they are placed in situations that they did not ask. They did not ask to be born to the family that they are born to, and they are put in situations where they cannot control. Therein causing them to make decisions sometimes that are not good decisions. And so ensuring that they have a good path forward, I wanted to ask a couple of questions, and this will be my final question, Mr. Chair. You are a part of the parole board.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And in one of the articles, I cannot put my hands on it right now, but it stated that you were probably one of the most conservative pardon members.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And there was an individual who actually committed a crime as a child and has served 50 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had denied giving him the opportunity
Yes, ma'am.
to actually receive parole. Early on, I asked you about young people making bad decisions when they're young, and you said that you believe that happens. In that particular situation where he has served, he was 70-some years old, certainly was no threat to anyone at that time in his life. What led to that decision? Because he was young when that crime happened.
I don't remember the exact details, but I remember that at the time, it did not meet what I thought it should have met for him to be released or given parole. So I made the decision based on that, and would make that same decision today based on that information. Now, as if I had new information, I would probably change my mind. I really tried to be open. Was I more conservative than some of the others? Yes, ma'am. Probably so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Next, we have in line Senator Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being before the committee
Yes, sir.
this morning, and thank you for your long and storied history of service to the state of Louisiana in one of the areas that I think requires the most care and attention and professionalism. Do you know David Burton, former
I
DA
do.
of Beauregard
Yes, sir.
Parish? So David Burton, in my estimation, in my district, is one of the absolute most outstanding, most trusted professionals when it comes to criminal justice.
Yes, sir.
And in his final 10 or so years of service as a district attorney, he took particular interest in juvenile justice with care and compassion, but with an eye toward rehabilitation. And he spent many of those years with you, traveling the country, looking at other models, and ultimately arriving at the estimation that the Missouri model was one that could be most effective and make a profound difference to the juveniles that we had in our care during that period of time. And when juvenile justice became such a hot topic and we had so many problems in that area over the last 4 or 5 years, and coming into this term, recognizing that we had a governor who wanted to tackle that and that we would probably be faced with making some decisions about that, Mr. Burton reached out to me in his retirement, having given so much of his life in service to trying to address this particular issue. And you know, the primary thing he told me prior to the governor appointing you to this position, as he gave me some advice in the history of our state's approach to juvenile justice, is time and again, he told me if I had a question, the one person I could trust to give me a good, honest, professional answer about it would be you.
Well,
And I trust
you.
David Burton, and I
Yes,
trust
sir.
the time and effort he put into improving our juvenile justice system and making it a rehabilitative program in the state of Louisiana. And because he trusts you, I trust you.
Well, thank you.
And that was before you got appointed to that. And I am proud that you're not going to let one uncooperated hit piece in the media define your long storied career of service in that field and the professionalism that you bring to the table and the knowledge you bring to the table to help solve something that I think all of us on this panel and in this legislature want to solve, which is a much better approach to the way that we manage care for those incarcerated juveniles in our state that ultimately results in their opportunity to be reformed and to have productive lives in our state. And so I want to thank you for that. I wanted to share with you the trust that I had in Mr. Burton, and certainly the trust that he had in you and the professionalism he recognized in you, the compassion and care that he witnessed you give to this program. And I'm thankful that you're willing to step back out of retirement and help all of us right the ship when it comes to
Thank you very
juvenile
much,
justice
Senator,
care.
because
So-
it's I don't hear a lot of that, but I hear a lot of the other side, but I don't hear much of that. But I
it's-
appreciate that.
And
Thank
look,
you.
it's a sensitive topic. I get that, and we got to get it right. We've not done that right for too long,
No.
And this is our chance to get it right. We can't have a misstep. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
All right, thank you, Senator. Senator Miguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much for coming to testify here today. We received a number of letters in regards to your confirmation hearing today, and I'd like to read a few in, and I'll try to summarize them as best, and feel free to give any comments on your relationships with these different individuals. The first is from the former director of the Missouri Division of Youth Services, Mr. Stewart. This is a letter of recommendation for the appointment of Kenny Loftin to the position of Deputy Secretary of the Office of Juvenile Justice. I have known Mr. Loftin in a professional capacity for the past 15-plus years. During this time period, our not-for-profit organization, Missouri Youth Service Institute, has aided him with the program at the Ware Youth Center. Mr. Loftin, I note, was an extraordinary leader of the staff at the facility and was respected throughout the entire Northwest Louisiana region. During the years we worked with Mr. Loftin, he was dedicated to running a safe and well-run juvenile facility to improve the lives of the youth they had there. I've been in the juvenile justice system, this is important, for over 50 years. I was the director of the Missouri juvenile system for over 17 years under 5 different governors' administrations. During my tenure, I served as the president of the National Organization of State Juvenile Directors, the Council of Juvenile Justice Administrators. Our not-for-profit organization has aided approximately 15 states in improving their juvenile justice systems. During all my years, I would say that Mr. Loftin is at the top of the list of juvenile administrators in the terms of leadership, integrity, and accountability. I would highly recommend Mr. Loftin for the position of Deputy Secretary to the Office of Juvenile Justice. Do you have any comments about this letter?
I appreciate Mr. Stewart doing that. He is, in my opinion, is a great guy that has a great vision for what he wanted to do with youth, and I appreciate those comments. Thank you for reading those.
I've chosen a few. Now we'll go over to someone with some law enforcement experience. Marshal Jim Whitman. I write this letter of recommendation for Kenny Loftin. I have known him for 12 years. I find him to be a man of his word and of impeccable character. I've seen him grow as a mentor to the employees and others in his profession. Mr. Loftin has always fought for juveniles' best interests. Our professional paths crossed many times in the juvenile justice system. I truly believe as an asset to the juvenile justice system. I am honored not only to work with him, but to also call him a friend.
Again, I appreciate Mr. Whitman doing that. We got to know each other when we took over Bossier Detention Center and the Johnny Gray Jones Youth Shelter in Bossier City and ran that for a number of years.
I have a letter from a social worker, Miss Rose Salem. It is my pleasure to recommend Kenny Loftin for Deputy Secretary for the Louisiana Office of Juvenile Justice. Mr. Loftin is kind and caring and a wonderful leader. He generally cares for the kids and staff that he's responsible for, and it was my pleasure working for him at the Ware Youth Center. I feel Mr. Loftin would be an excellent choice for this position. Do you know Miss Salem?
I do. She was a social worker, and let me back up. She was a great social worker. She had the kids' interests at heart. She dealt with the girls in the girls' program, and she was just excellent. And a little side note, her mother used to own a Italian restaurant in New Orleans at the corner, and apparently it was some nice restaurant. I don't know.
So in the interest of time, I'm going to pick just one more letter because I have a stack here. And this one comes from a friend, Dr. Coleman, who's a lifelong resident of Louisiana and a graduating class of LSU Medical in 1979. I have known Mr. Loftin for 40 years and his wife, Joanna, her entire life. Kenny's moral character and work ethics are superior. I believe that his motivation to run OJJ is to run the agency fairly, efficiently, and improve outcomes for the children of our state. I view him as a problem solver, not a problem creator. I recommend Kenny for OJJ Secretary without reservation.
I appreciate Dr. Coleman saying that. Matter of fact, at one time, Dr. Coleman was our facility physician. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I just wanted the committee the opportunity to hear and put those into the record, and I have a stack of these I'd like to enter into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, so ordered. Letters to be a part of the record. Senator Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Loftin, good morning. I'm looking at many of the reports and articles that was referenced earlier by Senator Barrow. These are some disturbing allegations. You would agree?
Senator, if they were true, yes. But I mean, I can't control what people write. And we had never had a negative article or to us until that report came out, which time I was already gone, wasn't even there. The suicides didn't occur when I was there. If you go back and look, we never had a suicide in my whole tenure. That's something we worked hard on. We really tried not to let that happen, and I think we've done a good job at it. When I came back in 2021, I put the ship back on the right course. We got Missouri back involved. As a matter of fact, we carried Missouri to the detention center, tried to do the Missouri model in detention. And that was a little more challenging because the kids were in and out. We even tried to do it in the shelter program, but your turnovers is correct. And again, I go back to the letter and to the report from the IG's office. They found nothing. So I don't know what else to say. I wish I could erase that article, but I can't.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it, and we get many questions about it. And here's one of the parts, just to cut to it, that I find most troubling. And this is, I'm reading a quote, this is the report referring to the New York Times article, includes many allegations of rape, choking, and other violence by Ware staff members against detained children while you, Loftin, was in charge of the Ware facility.
That's a flat-out lie. It did not happen.
They just made it up?
Yes, they made it up.
So, I mean, but do you understand the concerns
I
that
agree.
with these sort of allegations
I
that
agree totally
rape,
with you.
choking, sexual violence against detained children occurred on your watch, and
Yes, sir.
then you're being nominated for Deputy Secretary for Youth Services. I mean, do you get the concern there?
I do, but I also know that was a hit piece because the mother of the child that was that had committed suicide, of the two boys that were back to back, and those one of the reporters was a college student working on her thesis, I believe. The other one was some kind of reporter with the New York Times. They teamed up, and their goal was to shut Ware down. And so that it's not a. I don't view
Well,
it as.
it's just hard for us to. Well, it's hard for me at least. I can only speak
Well,
for me to hear reports like this. To hear
Again, I have to
concerns
go
from
back to the. I have to go back to the.
Loftin,
IG's
please
report.
let him, let's do it
Okay,
one at
all
a
right,
time
I
if you don't
apologize.
mind.
Oh
please.
no, this is fine. I understand.
yeah.
Senator.
Listen, I'm in depositions most of the day, so I'm used to two people trying to talk over each other. But you understand how it's hard
do.
for us to just dismiss allegations, and more importantly, calls from our constituents expressing concerns that the person who the governor has appointed to be over youth services, according to this, that many children were abused when you were in charge of the facility, when it occurred on your watch. And so to place the whole system under your watch, that's concerning. So what do you say to those concerns for the people that we're hearing from? And I just can't dismiss them and say, hey, I talked to the guy, he said it's all just flat lies.
No, sure. I'm not asking you to. The difference, I believe, is when the IG issued their findings, they were trained professionals. They were trained investigators. There were a number of those investigators that come and interview Ware. There was an FBI agent come and interview people at Ware and toured. Those professionals found nothing alarming or anything. Matter of fact, the issue report said Ware is safe. So I have to depend on that report. They also issued a letter, and I have a copy of it, and I'll be glad to give it to you, that says there's nothing in my background that keeps me from having this job. So I depend on those professionals that are trained, and that's what they do every day in a professional manner, and that's what I'm hanging my hat on.
Speaking of depositions, were you deposed or anything like that in any of those investigations?
No, sir. No, sir. But I knew that no matter what, it was either going to be good or bad. I knew they would come out with whatever they were. They were not going to be influenced by me, but I wasn't worried about it because I know what I've done in my career.
Yeah. But you didn't provide testimony or anything like
No,
that?
sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Senator. We have a question by the Pro Tem, Madam Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for another bite at the apple. And one of the things I was trying to listen to that I didn't hear, and I didn't ask it either, was if confirmed, what is your plan for the Office of Juvenile Justice? What is your plan?
Okay, we're trying to get Swanson open. Swanson is a new facility. Well, it's an old facility, and the new facility was built. And we're trying to get that open. We run into a lot of roadblocks, but hopefully next week we'll have that open. And then we're going to move some of the kids there because we have about 50 kids in local detention centers. So we're going to try to get some of those kids out, move some of the kids from some of the youth from the older facilities that we have. OJJ has a lot of old facilities, and I'm not talking 20 years old. I'm talking 40, 50 years old, and that have been retrofitted to try to make work. So we're going to do that. I would like to take the 18, 19, and 20-year-old kids, adults, and move them in a facility by themselves and provide vocational training, intensive vocational training, education, get them ready for society, get them ready to move out into society. Matter of fact, we're hiring Perry Staggs to come on board to help us with that. Used to be with adult and with OJJ, so he has a great deal of experience, so we're getting him to come on board to plan that program. And that'll get them away from the younger youth that we have, and that influence will hopefully go away. So we're doing that. We're we're going to keep Columbia like it is because that's a great facility, and we're working with the other facilities. Then we're getting probation back out on the street, trying to get them out of the facilities. We're almost there. We had one of the biggest hiring classes we've ever had in the last month. So once we get them out of facility, they can go back to supervising kids. We're looking at some virtual reality. It's hard to find vocational trainers, teachers. So we're looking, there's a company in Florida, and I won't mention their name, but they do virtual reality vocational programs. And when you get through, you're able to have a certificate that you can go get a job as a helper with. So we're looking at that, and we're doing some other things like that.
So you are currently already working in a position now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And so have you hired any of the people that were working with you when you were at Ware?
No, ma'am.
Did any of those people come
No,
with
ma'am.
you?
I don't know that I've hired anybody.
Okay. Okay, so you have not brought anybody with you from Ware?
One of the problems that through the years that I've watched from the outside looking in, one of the problems that OJJ has had is the deputy director has turned over so quickly. Deputy secretary has turned over turned over so quickly. There's been probably 10 or 15 since Governor Blanco, and I felt like we need stability there. And I felt like that after I worked with the staff for a few days, I felt like I could do that, and I felt like I could continue that stability, and that's what we're doing. We're trying to bring stability and some calmness and some reassurance that leadership is going to continue on. We're going to develop about a 5-year plan for the agency so that we can, no matter who sits in the chair as deputy secretary, that the agency is going to go forward.
So you talked about creating a facility, because that doesn't exist now for the 18 to 20-year-old, right? And where would that be, and how would it be paid for?
Well, we're not sure about that. We're having to explore that. But the same number of youth will be served. It just rearranging them. Rather than putting the 18, 19, 20-year-olds in with the 16-year-old or 15-year-old, we would just relocate them.
Okay, and some of these plans, I think, were kind of like already on the agenda. I think from the previous, director, in terms of, the opening of Swanson, all those things were kind of like already in place. But I guess the only thing that I see maybe different that you have here is which is something that's totally needed for the 18 to 20-year-old. But with us facing budget cuts and deficits, I'm just wondering how that's going to be fulfilled. And if we don't, you have to. There's going to be some funding costs, even though we're serving the same kids. There's going to be some upfront costs that has to be absorbed. There's going to be relocation, all that kind of stuff. If we don't give you what you need, how do you plan to make it happen?
Well, there's always challenges and there's always obstacles. So we'll meet those and we'll work around them, and we'll just have to do it. It's just what we do. We have to make the program work. Because it's time for those, they have to be prepared for society. And I would like to be able to go to the judge and say, he's finished his high school diploma, he's got vocational training, he's got he's worked in a setting that provides hands-on experience for him, and we have him a job. So would you please let him exit our custody and go to work?
Last question. Have you been able to go and visit many of the facilities that you have oversight over?
I've been to every one of them. Yes, ma'am.
So you've been to the one that has all girls?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you interacted with them?
Yes, ma'am.
And because I have two. The Women Caucus went. And many of these young ladies just were in bad situations. And what they really need was help and support. How are we making sure that we get them that help and support?
I'll just go and tell you, I want to move them. I don't like where they're at. Mm-hmm. And I think the facility's old. I think we have some issues there. and we have to get them back, the model back, the Missouri model back. So we're working on that. We're working on getting the mod model, as the state calls it, back in there. We're working to try to get more services there. But a large part of the issue there is where they're at.
I totally agree. It's not a rehabilitative model.
No.
It's very punitive.
Yeah.
And many of these girls are ranging from the age of, if I remember correctly, maybe 12 and up.
Yes, ma'am.
And so certainly we know that these are children who have found themselves in bad situations, and part of that was just survival. And I want to know and feel confident that if you're in this position, that that's what's going to happen.
Yes, ma'am. One thing we learned with the girls through the years is about 90% of them have some type of mental illness, and almost 100% of them have post-traumatic, something that's happened to them. So you have to address that. You can't hide.
Okay, thank you, because I was finished. You.
I don't know how it turned off.
Okay.
Go ahead, please proceed.
Mental health is another issue that is very close and dear to my heart. That is undiagnosed. Oftentimes, it is made make people feel ashamed to address or to announce. And I didn't hear you mention any of that initially. What would be your plan to address mental illness?
We have social workers. We're in staff, doctors and staff through WellPath and so on. We have a psychiatrist we're getting to meet with next week that does some work with our social workers, and we're going to ask him to develop or redo his program so that we can go in and talk to the line staff workers in layman's terms that they will understand, that if they have a kid that is schizophrenic or they have a kid that has some kind of disorder, that they can know what's happening, they can respond accordingly, because what happens is the professionals aren't always there. So if that line staff person doesn't understand it, they're going to react differently. So my goal is to get that line staff worker to where they know what's happening, where they can recognize it. Now, can they provide treatment? No. But they can say, we got a problem here, let's get the social worker in to deal with it. So that's my goal, one of them.
One last time, if we don't give you the funding that you need to get that done, what's your plan?
If I don't get the funding, I'm going to make it work some way. I have to. I'll cut something else out. We'll drive a different car or something. We have to get that done.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Madam Pro Tem. All right, the board is clear. I want to thank the Madam Pro Tem for coming. We also have the Senator whom's district the gentleman come from, Senator Seaby, who do not wish to be heard. Thank you for coming to the committee. All right, the board is clear. Thank you so very much for coming.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll be in touch with you by the end of the session.
Okay. Thank you, committee members.